Mara walked alone across the dry wasteland, her small boots sinking into soft gray dust. The sky above her was a strange orange color, filled with smoke and drifting ash. The air was heavy, hot, and silent, as if the whole world had stopped breathing. She looked around again, hoping to see someone from her camp, but there was no one. The place where her people were staying last night was now broken, burned, and empty. The wind pushed thin lines of smoke past her face, making her cough softly. She wiped her eyes and tried to understand what happened while she slept. There had been an explosion in the dark, something loud and bright. Then, everything went silent again. When she woke up, the tents were gone, the supplies were gone. And her family was gone. Only she remained. Standing in a wasteland that looked endless, she wrapped her arms around herself and whispered that she could not stay here alone. She started walking again, her feet shaking from fear and hunger. Mara tried to remember the stories her mother told her about this land. Long ago, this place had forests, rivers, and people living in safe villages. But after the Sky Tier War, everything changed. The forests burned, the land cracked open, and strange creatures appeared. One creature was feared more than all the others, the dragons. Everyone said dragons killed humans on sight, that their fire could melt stone. But Mara had never seen one. She only knew the stories the elders whispered at night. Now, as she walked, she prayed in her heart that she would never meet one. The wind grew colder, and she hugged her thin jacket tighter. Her throat felt dry, and her stomach hurt. But she kept walking because stopping felt dangerous. Every few minutes, she heard faraway rumbling under the ground. Sometimes it sounded like thunder, sometimes like giant footsteps. She kept telling herself it was only the wind, but deep inside, she knew it was something else. Suddenly, the ground shook softly. Making her stumble forward, she froze, her eyes wide, waiting for the shaking to stop. Then she heard a heavy whooshing sound above her. A shadow passed across the dusty land, long and wide like something with enormous wings. Mara slowly lifted her head, her heart pounding so hard she felt it in her throat. High above her, something big was flying through the smoke-filled sky. She could not see it clearly at first, but when it turned, she saw huge wings spreading across the light. A dragon. Her breath stopped for a moment as she stared, unable to move. Its scales glowed dark red, like burning coal, and its wings cut through the smoke like blades. She felt cold fear travel through her whole body. The dragon circled the sky once, then seemed to look directly at her. Mara panicked and ran, stumbling across the uneven ground. She knew she could not outrun something that big, but fear pushed her forward anyway. Her legs felt weak, and she tripped over a broken piece of metal half buried in the dust. She fell to her knees, the dry ground scraping her palms. She waited for fire, claws, or teeth to end her life, but nothing happened. The sky above her went darker for a moment as the dragon flew lower. She heard its wings beating, slow and powerful, sending waves of hot air across her back. She kept her head down, trembling, praying it would leave her alone. Then a deep roar shook the air, but the sound did not come from the dragon's throat. It came from behind her. From somewhere on the ground, Mara lifted her head a little and looked back. Her fear grew even more. A group of raiders was moving through the wasteland toward her, their faces covered with metal masks. They carried sharp weapons and strange gear that glowed with red lights. She had heard terrifying stories about raiders, how they hunted lost travelers and took everything from them. Now they were coming straight toward her. She felt trapped between the dragon and the raiders, no place to run. She squeezed her eyes shut and whispered that she did not want to die. But then something strange happened. The dragon landed between her and the raiders with a heavy crash that shook the ground. Dust exploded upward as its huge wings folded behind it. The creature lowered its head and growled at the raiders. A sound so deep it made the air vibrate. Mara stared in shock. Unsure if she was dreaming or going mad, why would a dragon protect her? A human child, the raiders stopped, their courage fading as they saw the giant creature blocking their path. One of them shouted something and pointed a weapon. The dragon opened its mouth slightly, steam rising from its throat like boiling smoke. The raiders hesitated, stepping back, afraid of what would happen next. Mara still sat frozen on the ground, watching the scene with wide eyes. She felt small and powerless. But she also felt something she had not felt since Morning Hope. It was strange, impossible, but real. The dragon was standing between her and the danger, as if it was choosing to protect her. She whispered softly, "Why? Why are you helping me?" But of course, she expected no answer. Dragons did not speak. Dragons did not protect humans. Dragons destroyed. Yet the creature did not turn toward her with hunger or rage. It kept its eyes on the raiders, ready to fight for her, and in that moment, Mara felt her fear slowly turn into a new kind of wonder. The wasteland was dangerous, but maybe she was not as alone as she thought. The dragon stood firm between Mara and the raiders, its massive wings half open like a living shield. The sunlight reflected off its red scales, making it look like a mountain of burning stone. Mara stayed on her knees, still shaking, still confused, still wondering if this moment was real or a dream. She waited for the dragon to attack her or ignore her, but it did neither. Instead, it lowered its giant head slightly, keeping one glowing eye fixed on the raiders. Its chest rose and fell with slow, deep breaths, each exhale sending out waves of hot air that rolled across the wasteland. The raiders finally broke their silence and began shouting orders at one another. Their metal masks made them look like creatures instead of humans. Cold and dangerous, one raider pointed a glowing spear at the dragon and stepped forward bravely. But the dragon let out a roar so powerful that the ground shook again. The raider fell back, dropping his spear, fear overwhelming his courage. Mara covered her ears, the sound echoing through her bones. The dragon took one heavy step forward, claws sinking into the dust with deep cracks. The raiders backed away quickly, now unsure if they could win this fight. Mara watched them scatter like insects as the dragon growled at them again. She felt her heart beating fast, not from fear of the dragon anymore, but from the strange feeling that it was trying to protect her. It made no sense. No dragon had ever helped a human in her lifetime. But here she was, alive because a dragon stood in front of her like a guardian. The raiders finally decided they were not strong enough to fight such a creature. They turned and ran across the wasteland, disappearing behind broken rocks and dust clouds. Their footsteps faded quickly until there was only silence again. The dragon watched them go, its eyes narrow and its body tense. Only when the last raider vanished did the dragon finally relax its wings. A slow rumble came from its chest. Almost like a sigh of relief, Mara didn't move. Afraid of what might happen next, the dragon turned its head toward her, lowering it until its golden eyes were level with her shaking body. Its gaze was sharp but not cruel, powerful but not hungry. Mara wanted to run, but her legs refused to move. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. The dragon stared for a long moment. Then, to her shock, it spoke. "Stay close." The dragon said in a deep voice that rolled like thunder, "You will die if you walk alone in this land." Mara's breath caught in her throat. The dragon talked, not in growls or animal sounds, but in real words she could understand. She felt dizzy with disbelief. Her voice came out small and shaky as she whispered, You can talk." The dragon blinked once, slowly, then answered, "I could speak long before your ancestors learned to walk." Mara swallowed hard and pushed herself to her feet, her legs trembling. She took one step back, unsure if she should trust him or run. The dragon tilted its massive head, studying her like she was a puzzle. "You are being hunted," it said, its voice firm and calm. "Those raiders are not the only ones searching for you." Mara shook her head, confused. "Why would anyone hunt me?" she said softly. "I'm nobody." The dragon's eyes softened, or at least she thought they did. "You are not nobody," the dragon said. "There is something inside you that others want." Mara felt cold fear spread through her chest. She had no idea what the dragon meant. She was just a girl who lived in a small camp. She didn't have anything valuable. She didn't know any secrets, but the dragon's words did not sound like a lie. She remembered the machines she saw last night, dark shapes with red lights searching the land. She remembered the explosion that destroyed her camp. Maybe it was not random. Maybe someone wanted something. Or someone, she whispered quietly. "How do you know?" The dragon looked toward the sky, sniffing the smoky air before speaking again. "I know because I have seen the signs," it said. "The machines in the sky. The broken ground, the raiders moving in groups. All of this is because of you." Mara felt her stomach twist as fear turned into confusion. "Why me?" she asked. "I don't understand." The dragon folded its wings and slowly sat on its hind legs, its size still towering above her. "Understanding will come later," it said. "For now, you must stay near me if you wish to live." Mara rubbed her arms, the cold wind pushing her hair across her face. She did not want to trust a dragon. Had no one else left in this broken world. Her family was gone, her camp was destroyed, and danger was everywhere, but something inside her whispered that the dragon's help was real. Not a trick, not a trap, but a strange kind of protection she never expected. The dragon lowered its wings slightly, creating a small shaded space near its side. "You are tired," it said. "You have no food, no water, and no shelter. Come closer." Mara hesitated, her heart beating fast. But the dragon did not move aggressively or threaten her. It simply waited, calm and patient, after a long moment. Mara took a slow step forward, then another. When she reached the shadow under the dragon's wing, she felt warmer and safer. The dragon looked at her once more and said in a quiet rumble, "More hunters will come. They will not stop. But I will keep you safe as long as you stay close to me." Mara nodded shakily, her fear slowly mixing with a strange sense of trust. She still didn't understand why a dragon would protect a human girl. But she knew one thing clearly. She was alive because of him. And as the wasteland wind howled across the broken land, she whispered to herself, I'm not alone anymore." Mara stayed close to the dragon as the wind pushed dust across the ground. She walked slowly, still shaking, still unsure if she was doing the right thing. The dragon's huge wing moved gently above her, creating a shadow that protected her from the harsh sun. Every few steps, the dragon looked down to make sure she was still there. She felt small walking beside such a giant creature, but she also felt safer than she had felt in days. They walked toward a tall shape rising in the distance. It looked like the remains of an old tower. Broken but still standing, the dragon moved silently, its claws leaving deep marks in the dust. Mara followed, her mind full of questions she was too afraid to ask. Why was the dragon helping her? Why did it say people were hunting her? And what did the dragon mean when it said she was not nobody when they reached the base of the tower? The air grew cooler. The dragon lowered its body and motioned with its head for her to enter the broken doorway. Mara stepped inside the tower and found faint traces of old human life. Cracked walls, rusted tools, burned wood, and old footprints frozen in dust. The dragon squeezed inside after her, folding its wings tightly against its body. "This place is safe for the night," the dragon said, its voice echoing through the stone. "No raider will come here, and the machines will not pass overhead. Mara walked deeper into the tower. Her fingers brushing the rough walls, she found symbols scratched deep into the stone. Pictures of dragons and humans standing together. Pictures of battles, alliances, and long-forgotten stories. She stared at the drawings, confused. "I thought humans and dragons were always enemies," she whispered. The dragon sat down heavily, the ground shaking under its weight. "That is what your people teach now," it said. But long ago, it was different. Mara turned to face him, sitting down on a broken piece of stone. The dragon's eyes softened as he watched her. "I am Ryder," he said. "That is the name your kind used to call me." Mara repeated the name softly. Ryder. It felt strange but powerful, like saying the name of a legend. I'm Mara," she said. Her voice quiet. Ryder nodded slowly, as if he already knew. She hesitated before asking her next question. "Why are you protecting me?" The dragon looked away, its golden eyes dimming slightly for the first time. It did not answer quickly. Instead, it stared at a faded drawing on the wall, small humans standing beside a dragon, holding a torch. Finally, Ryder spoke, his voice quieter than before. "You remind me of someone I once failed to protect." Mara felt a knot tighten in her chest. She wanted to ask who that person was, but the sadness in Ryder's voice made her stay silent. The tower grew darker as the sun lowered behind the hills. Ryder breathed out a soft stream of warm air that pushed away the cold wind entering the tower. Mara sat near him, not touching him, but close enough to feel the warmth from his scales. As night spread across the wasteland, strange mechanical sounds echoed in the distance. Ryder lifted his head and sniffed the air. His eyes narrowing, Mara tensed, fear returning to her heart. "What is that?" she whispered. "Hunters," Ryder answered. "Machines sent from the sky." Mara's body froze. "The ones from last night," she whispered, remembering the glowing red lights. Ryder nodded. "They search for something." "Or someone." Mara looked at him in fear. "You mean?" "They're searching for me." Ryder lowered his head and gently placed his wing around her like a shield. "They have your scent," he answered. "They will not stop until they find you." Mara leaned against the cold wall of the tower. Trying to breathe normally, her mind felt like it was spinning. "Why me?" she whispered again. "I don't have anything." Ryder studied her, his eyes glowing faintly in the dark. "You carry something inside you," he said. "Something old, something powerful, something dangerous." Mara shook her head. "That's impossible. I'm just a girl from a small camp." But Ryder did not waver. "The wasteland does not chase the unimportant," he said. "Your presence is not an accident." Mara hugged her knees, feeling smaller than ever, outside. A mechanical hum passed over the tower like a ghost sliding across the sky. Ryder lowered his head and kept still until the sound faded. Only when the night became quiet again did he speak. "You must rest," he said softly. "We leave at dawn." Mara nodded, but did not sleep yet. Her eyes wandered again to the wall drawings, the old stories of humans and dragons working side by side. She wondered what happened to make everything fall apart. She wondered why Ryder lived alone now. She wondered what loss he carried inside his giant heart. Slowly, she pulled her blanket from her torn bag and curled up between two stones. Ryder lowered his wing beside her. Blocking the night wind, he closed his eyes. But Mara could tell he was still listening, still watching, still guarding. She felt a strange comfort knowing he was there. She whispered quietly, "Thank you." Ryder the dragon did not answer in words, but his wing shifted slightly closer, like a silent promise. And as Mara finally closed her eyes, she realized something new in the middle of a broken world, surrounded by danger, fear, and loneliness. She had found someone who cared if she lived or died. Not a human, not a friend, but a dragon. A creature she was taught to fear, yet now trusted with her life and deep inside. Something warm began to grow, a bond, fragile but real. A bond that might change everything in the wasteland, for Mara, for Ryder, and for the world that had forgotten their kind could stand together. Morning light touched the broken tower slowly, turning the dust into a soft, golden glow. Mara opened her eyes and found Ryder already awake. Sitting tall and silent like a stone guardian, his body blocked half the doorway, and his wings were folded tightly as if he had been listening all night. The wind was calm, but the air felt heavy, almost warning them to move soon. Mara stood up carefully, rubbing her tired eyes. Ryder lowered his head to her level and spoke in a deep, calm voice. "We must leave now. There is something you need to see." Mara followed him out of the tower. The ground cold beneath her feet. They walked in silence for a long time, crossing cracked land and old metal debris half buried in the dust. Mara kept looking around, noticing strange shapes in the distance, broken machines, burned vehicles, giant holes in the ground. This part of the wasteland looked older, heavier, as if it held more memories than other places. Ryder's steps were slow and thoughtful, almost hesitant. Finally, he stopped on a cliff edge overlooking a deep valley filled with ruins. Mara gasped when she saw it. It looked like the skeleton of a giant machine city. Twisted metal reaching toward the sky like dead trees. "What is this place?" she whispered. Ryder looked down at the valley with sad, ancient eyes. "This is where the Sky Tier was born," he said. "And where the world was broken?" Mara frowned in confusion. Her people always spoke about the Sky Tier like a storm or disaster created by nature. But Ryder's voice made it sound like something else entirely. "What really happened here?" she asked. Her voice trembling, Ryder took a deep breath, the air vibrating as it passed through his chest. "A long time ago," he said, "humans built a weapon unlike anything seen before. They called it the Sky Tier. It was meant to save the world. But instead, it unmade it." Mara stared at the valley again, imagining giant machines working together to create something dangerous. Imagining people believing they could control it. Imagining the moment everything exploded and turned the world into ash. "But why are you telling me this?" she whispered. Ryder turned toward her slowly. "Because you are connected to it," he answered. "Your blood carries the key to the Sky Tier." Mara felt her chest tightened. "That's impossible," she said quickly, her voice shaking with fear. "I'm just a girl." "I don't have anything." Ryder shook his head. "You do not understand what rests inside you. Your parents were not simple wanderers." Mara froze. Her parents were always quiet about their past, always hiding, always moving from place to place. They never stayed long, never trusted anyone. And now she was hearing the truth from a dragon instead of them. "What were they?" she whispered. "Soldiers, scientists, something worse." Ryder looked at her for a long moment before answering. "They were protectors," he said, finally. "They worked to stop the Sky Tier from spreading. They carried knowledge that others wanted to control." Mara's eyes filled with tears as she remembered her parents' worried faces. She remembered the way they held her close when machines flew overhead. She remembered the night they told her to hide before everything went dark. Ryder's voice grew soft. "They died keeping you safe, and because of their sacrifice, the code inside you was never captured." Mara wrapped her arms around herself, feeling cold even under the rising sun. "What code?" she asked with a whisper. "What does it do?" Ryder looked out at the valley again, his eyes glowing with old memories. "The Sky Tier is still alive," he said. "Not in the sky, but deep below this land. It sleeps. But it can be awakened. The code in your blood is the final piece needed to restart it." Mara shook her head again, refusing to believe it if it's so dangerous. "Why would anyone want that?" Ryder's voice grew darker. Because some humans believe they can use it to reshape the world. Others believe destroying everything again will allow them to start fresh. And some simply want power. Mara's heartbeat became faster as fear spread through her chest. So, the raiders. The machines. They want to take me so they can restart the Sky Tier. Ryder nodded. They will hunt you until they succeed, but you are not alone. Mara looked up at him, her voice barely a whisper. Why are you helping me? Ryder lowered his head until his warm breath touched her cheek. Because once, long ago, I failed to protect someone with the same burden, he said. And I will not fail again. Mara felt tears roll silently down her face. She wiped them with her sleeve and looked out at the valley. The wind blew across her hair, carrying the smell of metal and ash. She felt small, but not broken. Afraid, but not hopeless. Lost, but no longer alone. What do we do now? She asked softly. Ryder opened his wings. Their shadows stretching across the broken ground. We keep moving, he said. We stay ahead of those who hunt you. We find a way to destroy the Sky Tier forever so no one can use it, and we protect your life. Mara took a deep breath, feeling her fear turning into something stronger. Not courage exactly, but a beginning of courage. She stepped closer to Ryder and touched one of his scales with her small hand. It felt warm, solid, alive, she whispered. Then I'll trust you. Ryder's eyes softened like warm fire. And together, human and dragon walked away from the valley of broken machines, carrying a secret that could save the world or end it forever. Mara and Ryder traveled far from the valley. Moving through dry canyons and broken steel plains, the sun grew hotter with every hour, and the wind carried the smell of metal and burnt sand. Ryder kept Mara close, sometimes lowering his wing to shield her from the heat. Mara walked in silence, her mind full of everything she had learned. Her parents' secrets, the Sky Tier, the code in her blood. It all felt too heavy for someone her age, but she forced herself to keep moving. Knowing danger followed them like a shadow by afternoon. They reached a stretch of land filled with rusted pipes jutting out of the ground. Old factories once stood here, but now only skeletons of metal remained. Ryder slowed his steps, sniffing the air, his eyes narrowing. Mara noticed the way his muscles tensed. Is something wrong? She whispered. Ryder did not answer at first. He kept scanning the horizon, listening, finally. He said in a quiet but serious voice, We are not alone. Mara froze. She looked around but saw nothing except empty land and metal ruins. Then she heard faint footsteps, soft clicks, metal sliding. Voices whispering from behind the broken pipes. Her breath grew shallow as fear crept up her spine. Ryder stepped in front of her, lowering his head and spreading his wings protectively. From behind the metal wrecks, figures slowly appeared. Humans, not raiders this time, but soldiers wearing clean armor with glowing blue lights. Their helmets reflected the sun, making them look like cold, emotionless statues. One soldier raised his hand, signaling the others to stop. He stepped forward and spoke in a calm but commanding voice. Do not be afraid, he said. We are here for the girl. Ryder growled immediately, a deep rumble shaking the metal around them. The soldier held up a glowing weapon but did not fire. We do not want to harm the dragon, he continued. We only want the child. Mara felt her heart jump in her chest. Why? She said, her voice trembling. The soldier looked directly at her. Because you hold the key to restoring humanity, he answered. With your help, we can fix what the Sky Tier destroyed. Mara shook her head. Ryder said restarting the Sky Tier will destroy everything. The soldier's voice turned firm. Dragons lie, he said. They want humans to remain weak. Ryder roared so loudly the ground cracked beneath him. Your kind built the Sky Tier, he thundered. And your kind seeks to repeat your mistakes. The soldiers raised their weapons in response. Mara stepped back, torn between fear and confusion. She wanted to believe the soldiers. She wanted to believe humans wouldn't harm her, but the cold, empty look in their eyes frightened her more than Ryder's fire. The lead soldier pointed his weapon at Ryder. "Move aside," he ordered. "The girl comes with us." Ryder lowered his body. Ready to fight, his wings stretched wide. And fire began to glow in his throat. Mara grabbed his leg in fear. "No," she cried. "They'll kill you," the soldier shouted. Fire, bright blue bursts, shot through the air. Hitting Ryder's scales, the dragon roared in pain but stayed standing. Smoke rose from the burning marks on his body. Mara screamed, "Stop!" She ran in front of Ryder, spreading her arms wide. "Please," she cried, tears falling fast. "I'll go with you. Just don't hurt him." Ryder's eyes widened in shock. "No," he growled. "Mara, you cannot." But she stepped forward anyway. Trembling but determined, the soldiers lowered their weapons slightly. Surprised by her bravery, the lead soldier nodded. "We will take her unharmed," he said. "We promise." Ryder tried to stand between them again. But his injured leg buckled. He fell to one knee. Groaning in pain, Mara ran to him, placing her hands on his warm, damaged scales. "Please," she whispered. "Don't fight anymore." Ryder's breath came in painful growls. His voice shook as he spoke. "I swore to protect you. I cannot let them take you." Mara pressed her forehead against his. "You already protected me," she whispered. "But if you die here..." "It's all for nothing." The soldiers approached carefully. Their weapons lowered. One of them gently took Mara's arm. She looked back at Ryder with tear-filled eyes. "I'll be okay," she whispered, though she wasn't sure it was true. "I'll find a way to come back." Ryder tried to rise again, but his body collapsed back to the ground. Smoke drifted from his wounds, and his breathing became slower as the soldiers led Mara away. Ryder forced his broken wings open. He roared in agony, but also in defiance, his eyes locked on her, refusing to let her vanish from his sight. The soldiers pushed her toward a large metal transport vehicle hidden behind the ruins. Mara felt panic rise in her chest as she was pulled farther from Ryder. But then she heard something, a heavy, desperate beating of wings. She turned around and saw Ryder dragging himself forward. Bloody, limping, but refusing to stay down. His wings rose again, even though they trembled violently. He pushed off the ground with a roar of pure pain and determination. Dust exploded beneath him as he launched into the air. Barely flying, but flying, Mara felt her heart break and soar at the same time. "He's coming for me," she whispered in awe. Ryder, wounded and burning, chased the soldier's transport with everything he had, not because he was strong, but because he refused to let the only human he cared for be taken away. And as the metal doors closed around her, Mara whispered through tears, "I'm coming back for you too, inside." Mara sat with her wrists bound loosely by glowing blue straps, not tight enough to hurt, but tight enough to keep her still. She stared through the small window, searching the sky for any sign of Ryder. Her heart pounded with fear and guilt. She had walked into the soldier's hands to save him. But now she didn't know if he was alive or falling from the sky somewhere behind her. The soldiers inside the transport spoke in quiet, flat voices. They talked about the core, about activation, and about the final sequence. Mara listened carefully, her stomach twisting with every word. They were moving her to a secret human base, hidden deep under the wasteland. A place where her blood would be used to awaken the sky tier. A place where the world could be destroyed again. When the transport reached a cracked metal platform in the ground, the floor sank down like an elevator. Darkness swallowed the vehicle as the platform descended into the earth. The air grew cold, and lights flickered on the walls as they dropped lower and lower. Mara felt trapped, like she was being pulled into the belly of a giant machine. Finally, the platform reached a massive underground chamber filled with bright white lights and metal walkways. Humans in lab coats rushed to the transport as the doors opened. One soldier grabbed Mara's arm. Guiding her out carefully, she didn't fight him, because she knew fighting here would be suicide. But inside, her thoughts screamed for Ryder. Was he alive? Was he still following her? Did he know where she was taken? The base stretched far in every direction, filled with humming machines and glowing screens. Mara heard the sound of heavy generators and distant alarms. The air smelled like cold metal and burning wires. The soldier behind her spoke into a radio. "We have the subject," he said. "Prepare extraction chamber." Mara's fear grew as they pulled her deeper into the base. They passed thick glass tubes filled with strange blue fluid. She saw metal limbs, mechanical eyes, and strange machines shaped like creatures she had never seen. This place wasn't a normal lab. It was a factory of things not meant to exist, a factory born for the sky tier. They brought her into a giant circular room with a metal table in the center. Straps hung from the sides, and sharp instruments were arranged neatly beside it. A tall scientist with silver hair approached her with a cold smile. "So this is the girl," he said. "The one who carries the final key." Mara stepped back. Trembling, "What are you going to do to me?" she whispered. The scientist tapped a glowing tablet. "Just a small extraction," he said. "We only need your blood, but you might feel." Light-headed, Mara's fear turned to anger. "You'll destroy everything," she said. "You'll wake the sky tier." The scientist's smile widened. "Oh no," he said softly. "We will reshape the world." Before he could say another word, a deep roar echoed through the entire base. The lights flickered wildly, and dust fell from the ceiling. Soldiers ran toward the doors, shouting in panic. "Impact detected," one yelled. Something breached the outer wall. Mara's heart leaped. She knew that sound. She knew that roar. "Ryder," she whispered. He had survived. He had found her. The base shook again. Harder this time. Sirens wailed as red lights flashed across the walls. The scientist cursed under his breath and ran to the control panel. "Seal all entrances," he shouted. "Activate defense drones." Metal doors slammed shut, and spinning robots flew out from hidden vents. But none of it stopped the growing tremors under their feet. Then, with the force of a falling mountain, Ryder smashed through the far wall. Chunks of steel exploded outward, sparks flying across the room. His wings were torn, his body burned, and smoke rose from deep wounds across his chest. But his eyes were bright with fire and fury. Mara felt tears stream down her face as he dragged his heavy body forward. He wasn't flying anymore. He was crawling. Fighting through pain only to reach her, the soldiers opened fire immediately. Blue bolts slamming into Ryder's scales. He roared and swung his tail, smashing machines and soldiers with one powerful sweep. Metal crashed, sparks flew, alarms screamed. But Ryder focused only on Mara. He reached the center of the room, lowering his head toward her. "Mara," he growled through pain, "we must leave." A soldier aimed a high-powered weapon at Ryder's heart. Mara ran forward and shoved the barrel away just as it fired. The blast shot into the ceiling, burning a deep hole through the metal. Ryder moved one wing around Mara, placing her safely beneath it, even injured and bleeding. His only thought was to protect her, but more soldiers poured in. Surrounding them, Ryder growled weakly. His strength was fading fast. Mara saw him struggle to breathe. His wings trembled. His scales flickered with dying heat. "Stop fighting," she whispered, pressing her hand against his wounded chest. "Please, you'll die." Ryder lowered his head, the fire in his throat dimming. "I promised to protect you," he said softly, "and I will." But Mara suddenly understood something. If no one stopped the machine, the sky tier would wake. Her own blood would be used to destroy the world. She looked up at the huge, glowing core above the room, pulsing like a giant heart. She realized what she must do, with shaking hands. She stood up and faced the control panel. She whispered to Ryder, "I know how to stop this time. I protect you." Ryder tried to rise, but his wings collapsed again. He watched helplessly as Mara stepped toward the machine, toward the one thing every human feared. Toward the sky tier's heart. Mara stood before the sky tier core, its bright blue glow reflecting in her trembling eyes. The humming of the machine shook the air like the heartbeat of something dangerous and alive. Behind her, Ryder lay collapsed on the ground. Wings torn, breaths shallow, his body dark from burns. Even in pain, he kept his eyes on her, refusing to look away. Mara felt her heart twist painfully inside her chest. She wanted to run to him, hold him, protect him. But she knew she couldn't. Not yet. The soldiers surrounded the room again. Raising their weapons, the scientist returned to eat, fear and anger mixing on his pale face. "What do you think you're doing?" he shouted. "You are the last piece of the sky tear. We need your blood." Mara stared at the glowing control panel, her hands shaking. "No," she whispered. "You don't need my blood. You need my choice." Ryder tried to rise again, roaring weakly. "Mara?" "Don't," he growled, but she shook her head with a sad smile. "You protected me," she whispered. "Now? I protect everyone." The scientist lunged toward her. But Ryder used the last of his strength to slam his tail across the floor. The ground shook violently. Knocking the scientist back, dust filled the air. Alarms blared, metal cracked. The whole base trembled like it was waking from a long sleep. Mara placed her hand on the glowing console. Feeling it pulse against her skin, the machine recognized her immediately. A soft voice echoed from the speakers. "Blood signature detected. Access granted." The scientist screamed in panic. "Don't touch anything," he shouted. "You don't know what you're doing." But Mara did know, inside her mind. She remembered something her mother once whispered when she was very young. "If the world is ever in danger again, your heart will know what to do." Mara took a deep breath and whispered back into the machine. "Overload, destroy the core." The lights on the control panel turned from blue to red instantly. A loud warning echoed across the chamber. Overload sequence activated. Core meltdown in 60 seconds. The soldiers panicked. Running for the exits, the scientist tried to shut down the system, smashing buttons on the console. But the machine ignored him completely. It only listened to Mara. Because the code in her blood was the only key, the final voice of the old world. Ryder dragged himself across the floor toward her, leaving behind trails of glowing dust from his cracked scales. "Mara," he growled. "Come to me. You cannot stay there." She looked back at him, with tears streaming down her face. "I can't leave yet," she said softly. "If the core doesn't melt fully, they'll restart it." Ryder's eyes burned with desperation and fear. His voice cracked. "I cannot lose you." Mara smiled through her tears. "Then trust me like I trusted you." The lights in the chamber flickered wildly as the core grew brighter. Heat filled the air, rising fast. The ground shook like thunder beneath them. Metal beams groaned and snapped. Pieces of the ceiling began to fall. But Mara kept her hand on the controls, refusing to step away. Core meltdown in 30 seconds. Ryder roared again. Trying to reach her despite his injuries, he crawled through fire and falling debris. His massive body shaking, his breath ragged. Mara wanted to run to him and hold him. But she forced herself to stay strong. She whispered, "Please, Ryder." Live, the scientist ran toward the exit door, screaming for the others to help him escape. But the door jammed shut. The machine had sealed everything. No one could stop what was coming. Core meltdown in 10 seconds. Mara looked up at the huge glowing sphere. Its light filled the entire room. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. She closed her eyes and whispered, "For my parents, for Ryder, for the world." But before the countdown reached 0, a giant shadow covered her rider with the very last of his strength, pushed himself upright and spread his wings over her like a burning shield. His body wrapped around her, protecting her from the explosion to come. Mara gasped as his warm scales pressed against her. "No," she cried. "You'll die." Ryder lowered his head beside hers and whispered in a soft, broken voice, "I choose you." Then the world exploded. A roar of light and heat filled the chamber. Metal shattered, machines melted, walls cracked. It was like the sun had fallen underground. But under Ryder's wings, Mara felt only warmth. A painful warmth, but a living one. When the light finally faded, the room was silent. Smoke drifted through the broken air. The sky tier core was gone, melted into nothing but liquid metal. The machines hung lifeless from the ceiling. Everything was destroyed, except 2 figures in the center of the room. Ryder lay unmoving, his giant wings covering Mara completely. Mara crawled out from under them, choking on dusty air. She touched his nose with shaking hands. "Ryder," she whispered, "please. Open your eyes." For a long moment, he did not respond. Her heart cracked open like shattered glass. But then, softly, weakly, his eyelid lifted. A faint glow returned to his golden eye. "Mara." He whispered, almost breathless, "I kept my promise." She broke down in tears and pressed her forehead against his. "And I'll keep mine," she whispered. "I'll stay with you." As long as you live, outside, the wasteland sky glowed with a new sunrise. A world saved not by armies or machines, but by a human girl and a broken dragon who refused to give up on each other. And together, slowly, painfully, they walked out of the ruined base, toward a world ready to begin again.